Good evening and welcome to Gravitas. I'm Palki Sharma Upadhyay. Let's get started.
Gravitas, co-presented by SBI Mutual Fund, a partner for life. Skoda Superb, best in next class. Co-powered by Star Health Insurance, the health insurance specialist. Amstrad, get real, get Amstrad.
So we'll be going to the U.S. Supreme Court.
More than 40 hours of counting. America doesn't have a winner yet. 6 states are yet to be called. Overall, Joe Biden has the lead. If he wins one more state, he'll win the election. Donald Trump is behind. He must win at least 4 out of the 5 states to win election. It's difficult, but it's not impossible. And the numbers are not the most complicated part of it. What happens when a winner is declared? The president is not even waiting for that. He has already moved court to contest the election. He wants to stop further counting of votes. This is the president of the world's oldest democracy, the one that sits in judgment of the whole world, that declares wars on dictators because people in other countries have the right to democracy. How is America handling democracy at home? By making a mockery of it. The president has cast a shadow on the entire system. The result may come in the next few hours, but it won't be the end of this election, we can tell you. It will be the beginning of another showdown. On Gravitas tonight, we'll bring you up to speed. Let's begin with the global headlines as always.
Kosovo's President Hashim Thaci has resigned in order to face charges for war crimes and crimes against humanity at a special court based in The Hague. Thaci was a former guerrilla leader during Kosovo's war for independence from Serbia in the 1990s. China has temporarily suspended the entry of foreign nationals from India, citing COVID-19 concerns. Foreign nationals in India with a valid Chinese visa or residence permit will not be allowed into China. China had put flights from India on hold after 19 Indians tested positive on landing in Wuhan. The Vande Bharat mission flight on November 6th has been rescheduled. Indian Army Chief General Manoj Mukund Narawane is on a 3-day Nepal visit. General Narawane met with his Nepalese counterpart Purna Chand Thapa at the Nepal Army headquarters. General Narawane presented ventilators for Nepal Army field hospitals on behalf of the Government of India. In a major boost to the Indian Air Force, the second batch of 3 Rafale combat aircraft landed on the western border state of Gujarat after flying non-stop from France, taking the total number of Rafale jets currently in the IAF to 8. Greece will re-enter lockdown from Saturday for 3 weeks to battle a second wave of the coronavirus. The Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis has said the measures must be adopted for 3 weeks to overcome the second wave of COVID-19. Saudi Arabia has announced plans to reform its decades-old controversial sponsorship system called kafala to ease restrictions on foreign workers. This is an effort to make its labor market more attractive for foreign workers. Under the new rules, non-Saudis will no longer need the employer's permission to leave the country permanently, to change jobs, or even to replace a lost ID. The currently applicable kafala system generally binds a migrant worker to one employer. Philadelphia Police Department released body camera footage in the case of a black man's death. Evidence shows that Walter Wallace Jr. was killed outside his house within 1 minute of the officer's arrival. The police said he ignored commands to drop the knife in his hand when they fatally shot him. A Palestinian motorist fired a pistol at Israeli soldiers in the occupied West Bank on Wednesday and was killed by them. Palestinians identified the dead man as an officer in their security forces. There were no Israeli casualties. Last season's runners-up Paris Saint-Germain are in danger of being knocked out in the group stage of the Champions League after being beaten 2-1 by RB Leipzig. Angel Di Maria scored within 6 minutes, but missed a penalty soon after, and the visitors also had 2 goals ruled out for offside. Leipzig equalized against the run of play just before halftime through former Paris Saint-Germain Christopher Nkunku, and the turnaround was completed in the 57th minute, with Emil Forsberg smashing home a penalty awarded for handball. There was another upset in the same group as Manchester United fell to a shockingly poor 2-1 defeat against Istanbul Başakşehir. The Turkish champions went 2-0 up through former Chelsea striker Dembaba and Edin Visca, while Anthony Martial pulled one back for United. Argentina's Diego Schwartzman is just 1 win away from securing a maiden ticket to the season-ending ATP Tour Finals in London. The 6th seed thrashed Spanish qualifier Alejandro Davidovich Fokina 6-1, 6-1 to become the first man to enter the quarterfinals of the Paris Masters. Schwartzman will claim the final spot at the Elite 8-man Tour Finals if he can beat 3rd seed Daniil Medvedev, or if Spaniard Pablo Carreño Busta loses his 3rd round match.
More than 40 hours of counting and counting, no result yet. Counting began on Wednesday, 4:30 a.m. Indian Standard Time. It's Thursday night in India and America still does not know who the next president will be. Let me start with 5 interesting figures in this election. Number 1, 66.9%. This is the voter turnout, the highest in 120 years. Number 2, 72 million. That's how many votes Joe Biden has won, the highest for any presidential candidate in US history. Number 3, 67.2 million. That's how many votes Donald Trump has won, 4 million more than the last time. Number 4, 400 plus. That's the number of lawsuits already filed. This is the most litigated election in US history. And number 5 is 5. That's the number of states still counting votes. As of now, Joe Biden is ahead. Counting is on, so are the protests. There were clashes and stabbings in Washington, D.C. last night. In the last 24 hours, we've seen protests and counter-protests. Trump supporters tried to stop the count at some centers. Biden supporters tried to stop Trump supporters. Needless to say, there's chaos. Donald Trump is in no mood to concede. He has already moved court to challenge some results. This is what the tally looks like right now. Total Electoral College votes, 538. The magic figure is 270. Joe Biden has 264 electoral votes. So he's 6 short of the victory mark. He has 264, he needs 270. Donald Trump has 214 votes. Does that mean he's losing? Not necessarily. He can still cross the finish line, but his path to victory has got a lot tougher. Some states are still counting votes. Georgia is one of them, and we may have a result from Georgia any moment now. Let's listen into this.
Context to the time it's taking for the results to come out here and really around the rest of the country. As many of y'all know, it's counties who run elections, and there are 159 counties in this state. Some are more resourced than others. There are counties in the state that have a part-time employee be the director of their elections, and it takes time and effort to do these things. And then we have counties that have over 800,000 registered voters, and it also takes time to process those things. So as we move forward, another couple things I want to put into context for you is people have asked, why has the number not moved more quickly? Well, as y'all know, the law calls for all absentee ballots to be accepted by 7 p.m. on Election Day. So obviously on Election Day itself, election officials are very, very busy actually running the Election Day voting. So normally what they'll do is have to come back in that evening and into the next day and accept those ballots. And by accepting them, they have to go through signature match and all the other processes to confirm the validity of those. And in our case in Georgia, especially when they come in right before or on election day itself. We have to get notifications out to those people that they have 3 days to come in and cure their ballots. That all takes time. That all takes effort. There's only so many people who are involved in these processes in the 159 counties in this state. I know there's been questions about numbers that move around. I've heard 25,000, 50,000, 60,000. The reality is it's about 60,000 votes that are out right now, and we're working with the counties to make sure that they have properly put their stuff into their system and uploaded. As like many of y'all during this election cycle, they're tired. Sometimes they're going to forget to press the upload button. So we recently this morning done an extra email and follow-up phone calls through our liaisons and the elections office to make sure they have uploaded everything. And with that, we just had a new tranche of votes come in from Sumter County, which has lowered the overall. I'm going to give you what we have with every caveat in the world, what we believe the best numbers are right now for the state, knowing that there's going to be a handful of those ballots in small counties here and there that will be slowly aggregated into the system over time. But these are our big tranches that can affect the outcomes overall. And some of you might have started seeing some of these already, and we're working to get these done today if possible. And we're working with the counties who might be having questions about how to do this properly, because the main thing we want to do, fast is great, and we appreciate fast. We more appreciate accuracy. Accuracy is going to be the bedrock upon which people will believe the outcomes of these elections, be they on the winning side or the losing side. So accuracy is vital, and it's the key to all of our processes. And I want to make sure we told everybody in this room and in this state and around the country, this is the first time Georgia has used paper ballots in 20 years. We told people they can expect some results on election night, and we got a lot of them out there. In fact, we got down to 250,000 yesterday. We were down to about 60,000 today. So let me go through what we know we have right now. I brought my computer so I wouldn't screw it up. Bryan County, 3,027. Burke County, 494. Chatham County, 17,157. Clayton County, 7,408. Cobb County, approximately 700. Floyd County, 682. Forsyth County, 4,713. Fulton County, 11,200. Gwinnett County, 7,300. Harris County, 3,641. Lawrence County, 1,797. Putnam County, 1,552. Taylor County, 456. For a total right now of approximately just over 60,000 votes. The anticipation is we will continue to go through the process throughout the day and into the evening if necessary. I know there are large counties in this state that stayed overnight, Fulton County being one of those, to process these, and they've knocked their numbers down to about 11,200. We anticipate getting through this process today. One of the reasons that our friends in Chatham County take a little bit longer is they have a unique system where their voter registration is separate from their elections division, and they handle different sides of the absentee ballot and the reporting process. So that's one of the things that held them up, but I think we're through that process today, and I anticipate getting the majority of the 17,000 in today as well. So with that, I want to thank y'all for being here and answer any questions. We'll start with Justin over here.
Yeah, can you explain to us why that number seems to be such a moving target with the number of absentee ballots?
As I said earlier, all the ballots that come in by 7 p.m. on election day had to be logged in. Now at the same time, they're making reports on the other side. So they're drawing from let's say there's 10,000 ballots. They report 2,000 ballots. They add 1,000 ballots. That means you have 9,000 ballots. And that's why the number of potential votes that are available will continue to be changing. What we've essentially seen now is that number stopped growing, which is why we went from 250,000 yesterday about this time to 60,000 today. Yes, ma'am.
So there you have it. You don't have a result yet. Georgia has 16 electoral college votes and they do not have a result yet. They were expected to declare the result now, but they haven't. Donald Trump is leading, but look at how thin the margins are. Donald Trump is leading with 49.6% of the votes counted so far. Joe Biden has 49.2%. It could change any minute. there are votes still being counted. Had Joe Biden won Georgia, he would have won the election. So these are the states that are still counting the votes: Nevada, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, and Alaska. Last we checked, Biden was leading in Nevada. That's 8:30 p.m. IST. Trump had a lead in the 4 other states. But the margins, as I just told you, are razor thin, less than 1% in some states. Any state could change sides, which is why we are still unable to report a winner. Let's look at each candidate. Joe Biden stands a better chance to win. All he needs to do is win one more state. Any one of these states where counting is on. He has to win one of them, and he should be able to sail through. What about Donald Trump? Well, he needs to win at least 4 out of 5 states to come back to office. It's difficult, but it's not impossible. The numbers as they stand right now suggest that Biden is on course to win this election. Donald Trump faces an uphill battle. He might lose, but he will not accept defeat. Trump says this election has been compromised. And as promised, the American president has launched his legal battle. He has challenged the result in Wisconsin and Michigan, 2 states that Joe Biden has won. Trump's team has made serious charges, but they haven't offered any evidence to back up those charges. In Wisconsin, Donald Trump's campaign claims that there were irregularities in several counties. In Michigan, they claim that the president's team was not allowed to observe the counting in quote-unquote numerous locations. It doesn't end there. This is a legal blitz from the Trump camp. Reports say they want to use the courts to halt the vote counting in Pennsylvania and Michigan. Can Donald Trump then sue his way to victory? We'll get to the legal aspect of this in just a bit, but expect Team Trump to make more such allegations as the results trickle in. Because most of the votes that are being counted are the mail-in ballots or the postal ballot. Now, this is very important. Donald Trump has been opposed to them, to mail-in ballots, since the start of this election. He says they're compromised. But here is the reason why the president does not like the idea of mail-in ballots. It has nothing to do with the dubious claims of voter fraud. Several reports say that those who voted through the mail overwhelmingly chose the Democrats. Let me give you the example of Pennsylvania. It has 20 electoral college votes. It's a very important state. It's a key battleground state. And in Pennsylvania, more than 1.6 million ballots were from registered Democrats. What about the Republicans? Close to 600,000 ballots came from the Republican Party, members of the Republican Party. Simple math would tell you the Democrats have received 3 times as many votes through the mail as the Republicans, thrice as many as the Republicans. The mail-in ballot could also have contributed to the swell in voting this time. That seemed to have favored Joe Biden. He is leading in the popular vote contest, or vote share, as we call it in India. Joe Biden has got more votes than Barack Obama did in the year 2008. Obama got 69.5 million votes. Last we checked, Joe Biden had already crossed the 72 million mark, with several thousand votes yet to be counted. It is these mail-in ballots that could potentially seal the defeat of Donald Trump. Yesterday, the president wanted officials to stop counting the votes. He has triggered a massive campaign. And the other side has now taken to the streets. Their slogan is this: count every vote. Trump supporters mobilized to ensure the opposite. Stop the counting, they say. In Phoenix and Detroit, they carried out demonstrations to stop counting. The world is watching what's happening in America, and the final result may not be the end. It may be the beginning of another violent showdown. And we are seeing violence on the streets. As we've been reporting, the election has revealed a deeper divide within America. They are no longer just locked away within the ballot box. You can see the divisions on the streets. Yesterday, we saw several cities, since yesterday in fact, witnessing protests and violence, with supporters from both sides fighting the other camp through a protest rally of their own. Take a look at this.
Election day in America came and went without a verdict. What it has left behind are angry Americans on both sides of the political divide. Trump wants to contest the result in court. His supporters won't wait for a verdict.
Get out of the way. Get out of the way.
In Detroit, Trump supporters landed up outside a counting center. Banging on window panes, they demanded that the counting be stopped. There is no proof of voter fraud. Even Trump's favorite news network, Fox News, wasn't spared. The network's offices in Arizona witnessed a protest when they reported that Joe Biden will carry the state, while the Trump camp contested the projection on air. Their supporters disrupted the network's reportage with their angry chants. The anti-Trump camp responded on the streets too. From North Carolina to Las Vegas, in Seattle, and New York. The progressive groups called on officials to count every vote. The protesters in Chicago went a step further. They wanted Trump to concede the election without the complete result. Both groups virtually came face to face in America's capital, Washington, D.C. Supporters of Black Lives Matter clashed with the police as they marched close to the White House. Not too far away, 4 members of the far-right group Proud Boys were stabbed. The group is a known supporter of the Trump campaign. Tensions are high.
Yeah, girl, he tried to stab you. They stabbed me.
After New York, businesses and office buildings near the White House have boarded up. The police departments in major cities planning to put more police officers on the streets or on standby. These preparations are a sign of the trouble that America could witness in the days to come. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Let's take you straight to Hyderabad. Joining us now, Mr. Syed Akbaruddin, India's former permanent representative to the United Nations. He served as spokesperson of the Ministry of External Affairs and India's representative at the IAEA. Mr. Akbaruddin, it's good to have you back on the show, sir.
Thank you very much, Palki.
Is it safe to say that the declaration of Joe Biden's victory is now just a matter of time?
Yes, since we met yesterday, Vice President Biden has expanded his lead and his path to electoral victory has expanded and increased. But at the same time, we've also noticed that the area of contest has now spread to another jurisdiction, and that possibly is the judicial arena. You know, elections are meant to resolve differences. To bring to an end divergence. But with every passing day, the 2020 US presidential election seems to be only throwing up new areas of divergence and difference. So we will have to wait and see whether the judicial path now opens up a new arena of contestation.
Right. It looks highly likely that this will finally be settled in court because Donald Trump, as we know, has not waited for the results to be announced. He's already moved court. How significant do you think is the demand of an incumbent president that the counting of votes should be stopped? Would this, in effect, mean a president calling for disenfranchisement of votes?
So we have to just step back a little from today and President Trump's statements and view this in a broader perspective. President Trump, to be fair, has always never concealed his concern for the electoral process. Even when he won in 2016, he did say that there were many fraudulent activities in the process, even though he had, through that process, emerged as a victor. Even now, he has been reiterating that same point. It is unusual, it is disconcerting, but then we have to see that even in the process that he is now trying to discredit, he logged in as many as 68 million votes. So obviously, he is reflecting a concern which is fairly widespread in US society. Yes, it's very disturbing that the legitimacy of the electoral process is being questioned, but it's being questioned by a representative who seems to have a fairly wide backing of the polity. And that's where the concern is, because irrespective of this outcome, these scars are likely to remain for a long time.
Indeed, and we have a flash just coming in, news flash, that the Trump campaign has won the court ruling to gain access to the Philadelphia vote counting. He wanted access to counting centers and he has got that. Now the whole world is watching. Interestingly, US markets are trading with a 2% high. Markets tend to be jittery when there is uncertainty on the political stage, but the US markets are doing pretty well. If you look at headlines from, say, Israel, the Jerusalem Post says that the Prime Minister Netanyahu, had already prepared ground to work with Joe Biden. Another Israeli minister has been quoted as saying that there will be war if Biden returns to the Iran deal. The world basically is looking at what's happening in America. How should countries like India see this uncertainty, which could be long drawn?
You're right. All diplomats and leaders globally prepare for all eventualities. And that's the right way to go about it. And therefore, everybody globally is looking at it. I'm certain, from our perspective, we are looking at two things. One is how any change will impact on India, and B, how would that new equation fit into our framework of ties. On that, we are on perhaps very solid grounds compared to many others. And that's because one of the few things that both President Trump and Vice President Biden seem to agree on, as well as the Democrats and Republicans, is bipartisan support for improving ties with India. So we start on a fairly solid edifice. Yes, if there is a change in administration, it does take time for a new administration to find its feet. And that's going to be a gray area. But that's how the United States functions. And so we have to get used to it. But even the Biden administration, from our perspective, is not unknown. Vice President Biden visited India last, if I could recollect, in 2013, when he was vice president, and at the invitation of the then Indian Vice President, Mr. Hamid Ansari. He's also been the Foreign Relations Committee chairperson for many years in the past. He supported the Indo-US nuclear deal. So there are many commonalities that we see in a change of administration if that were to happen. If otherwise, if the current administration continues, that too, the framework is in place, the personalities are well known, the equations are also well known. Yes, new frameworks always could bring in some uncertainty. But that's been the case even with the present administration. While our ties in a general manner have improved, there have been obviously trade tensions. You would recollect there were sanctions imposed on Indian steel exports. Also, we've had problems with H-1B visas and travel of professionals. So every administration will bring its own unique perspective, but given the bipartisan support that we have in the US for ties with India, whether in among US politicians or in societies. Societally, many Indians have very good equation with the diaspora, very strong links. Our economic ties are strong. There will certainly be some changes, and we will have to accept those changes as we've done now in the case of President Trump. So to sum up, I don't see very many fundamental changes being brought in ties with between US and India. And so we are in a much more comfortable place than some of those who are making much more noise about it.
Right. And of course, relations between two countries do not necessarily depend on individuals. These are relations between two states, and yet individuals play their part. Joe Biden has been around for a long time. He comes with his experience. He also comes with his baggage. And many in India feel that he has taken an anti-India stand with his Kashmir statements last year. Although, to be fair, Donald Trump offered to intervene on multiple occasions, even after being told that there is no room for intervention of a third party. Are these fears unfounded that Joe Biden and his administration, if they were to take the White House, are not going to be as friendly with India as the Trump administration has been?
So again, it's fair to be conservative and look at all aspects and consider that there are these possibilities. And that's a fair sort of assessment to make. But that said, we need to again look at the past. When President Obama came in his initial few months, there was a talk that he would appoint a special envoy, not only for Afghanistan and Pakistan, but also for India. But from there, he changed direction and ties continued to improve. Even President Trump, as you've mentioned, I remember in the first few months, he repeatedly talked of mediation, his willingness to intervene. He had very good ties. He considered this a nuclear flashpoint. But the end product, we see him as somebody who's been very supportive of ties with India, despite some other problems we've had on trade, on GSP, etc. So India is our ties with the US are resilient. They can withstand minor blimps. We should be ready for it. But frankly, on Kashmir, we don't have to be diffident. As a mature, forward-looking, confident, rising, emerging power, we can take on all comers in terms of our views on Kashmir because we stand on legally very strong footing, morally and politically extremely confident.
Always a pleasure speaking to you, Syed Akbaruddin. Thanks very much for being with us on the show.
Thank you very much, Palki.
So 4 months ago, Donald Trump admitted in one interview that he isn't a great loser. 2 days back, he said the same. It's the 5th of November now. 2 days since Americans cast their vote. The trends are not in Donald Trump's favor. Even the president's favorite news channel is talking about, quote-unquote, narrow paths to victory. How is Donald Trump taking all of this? True to his word, Trump is not proving to be a great loser. He's being a sore loser. Here's why. When the counting began, Trump cried theft on Twitter. He then cried fraud at a 2:30 a.m. address. A quick recap, just in case you missed it.
Lead by 76,000 votes with almost nothing left. And all of a sudden, everything just stopped. This is a fraud on the American public. This is an embarrassment to our country. We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election. We did win this election. So our goal now is to ensure the integrity for the good of this nation.
That was more than 24 hours ago. Trump has not been seen since. No public appearance, no official visit, no meetings. All we have from Trump are tweets. One claiming that Biden votes are being found all over the place in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin and Michigan. I do not know what he meant there. Then there's this tweet where the president is attacking the mail-in ballot yet again. In another tweet, Donald Trump claims that the US election system has been damaged. Clearly, Trump is not happy. The numbers do not favor him. The president is in denial and he is blaming everything and everyone he possibly can. Word is he is frantically calling Republican governors and his lawyers. And guess what? Elections have not been called yet. What happens if they're called in favor of Joe Biden? Donald Trump is already building a case to remain in office in such a situation. His team has been filing lawsuits, too many of them. One demanding the recount in Wisconsin, another challenging the votes in Michigan, the third lawsuit to halt the challenge of votes in Pennsylvania, and a fourth one demanding a halt of counting in Georgia. Now, experts say that these cases lack foundation. Donald Trump has won one of these cases, we just told you. At the most, they can stall the result. Donald Trump is game for anything. If he cannot win this election, he will hijack it by stealing it. Even better, he can get the courts to rule in his favor. Trump is trying his level best to interfere with the process. A day after his son, Eric Trump, cheered the president's allegation of fraud by shouting, "It's not how a democracy works." He is right. It isn't. The leader of the world's oldest democracy cannot have his official schedule empty for the second straight day. No briefing on economy, no briefing on the Wuhan virus situation. America's infection numbers have, by the way, crossed the 9.8 million mark. But Donald Trump has locked himself up in the White House and he has put on hold the state machinery. This is not how a democracy works. Number two, a democratically elected leader should not stoke violence. A day after Trump declared he does not need Arizona, pro-Trump supporters have taken to the streets of Phoenix, some of them carrying arms. They're outside the counting centers, trying to stop the counting, trying to disenfranchise voters. Press crew have been asked to leave the area. Police is guarding the counters. Yes, this is not how a democracy works. Third, in which democratic country does a court decide elections? Because that's exactly what might happen in the US. It's bad enough that Americans hand over their franchise to an electoral college. And now Donald Trump, if he is to have his way, it will be the US Supreme Court that will pick the president, not the people. And this won't be the first time, by the way. It happened in the year 2000, during George W. Bush's election. Back then, the fight was over one state, Florida. Bush won it and the election. 20 years later, it's much messier. Why? Because Trump is scared to face the result of an election that's becoming more and more uncertain. It's an election that's defined by suspense. One American leader predicted this. Weeks before the polling day, former Democratic presidential nominee Bernie Sanders had this to say.
You're going to have a situation, I suspect, in states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, other states, where they are going to be receiving huge amounts of mail-in ballots. And unlike states like Florida or Vermont, they're not being able, for bad reasons, to begin processing those ballots until, I don't know, election day, or maybe when the polls close.
Can a country that prides in calling itself the global leader not fix its electoral process? Perhaps not, because amid all the confusion, the United States of America is busy celebrating the election of a dog as a town's mayor. I'm not making this up. It happened in Kentucky. A French bulldog was elected to office in rabbit hash. The dog won more than 13,000 votes. It's apparently a tradition since the 1990s. Am I the only one who thinks this is a mockery of the electoral system? It is also a commentary on where the United States of America is headed. In Ethiopia, there's a civil war brewing. The army is marching into the northern province of Tigray. The regional government has declared war on the center. It's a watershed moment for a country with unresolved ethnic tension. So what triggered this rebellion and which side holds the edge? Our next report tells you.
Ethiopia is hurtling towards a civil war. The northern province of Tigray is in open rebellion. On Wednesday, the local ruling party attacked federal troops stationed here. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed described it as an act of betrayal.
The army has been attacked from behind by its own citizens, and many have been martyred, wounded and properties destroyed. This force of destruction has been engaged in many counterproductive activities for the past many months.
Cracks in the union first emerged in September. Tigray held parliamentary elections without permission from the center. The vote was declared illegal. It was the first indication of what was in store. At the heart of this brewing civil war is a battle for influence. Tigray accounts for just 5% of Ethiopia's population, but thanks to a well-trained army and a strong economy, it has always enjoyed disproportionate power in government. That changed when Abiy Ahmed came to power in 2018. Major Tigrayan officials were either fired or sidelined. It was part of his crackdown on corruption. In response, the Tigray government declared Prime Minister Abiy as illegitimate.
The authoritarian unitary government that has illegally usurped power of the federal government is committing treason and injustice by forging alliance with external forces and selling out the country's sovereignty in a bid to subdue people of Tigray.
The situation is precarious right now. A state of emergency has been declared in Tigray. Federal troops have moved in. Electricity, internet and telephone connections have been cut. Prime Minister Abiy has made it clear he will fight till the end.
We understand that the forces have continued with the attack, and the Prime Minister has recalled some of the older or retired military generals to come back because he says there is war. The main thing here is a political pull, and which the Prime Minister says has crossed the line. So he is determined to ensure that he flattens, or quote unquote, he flattens their ambitions of trying to find him as an illegitimate president or the prime minister, and he says that he will not leave the Tigray region until he ensures that the regional forces and the political leadership there respects the constitution.
The war itself is likely to be devastating. Tigray claims that federal troops in the region have defected. Combined with the region's own forces, they could be a handful for the Ethiopian army. There's also the risk of the rebellion spreading elsewhere. Ethiopia is home to 80 ethnic groups. Unresolved tensions could resurface if a civil war breaks out. Prime Minister Abiy is a champion of dialogue. He ended a 2-decade conflict with neighboring Eritrea and pacified rebel groups, all without deploying troops. But the attack on Ethiopian soldiers was the red line for him. The question is, can Africa's oldest union survive this war? Bureau Report, WION. World is One.
In Pakistan, a security guard shot a bank manager. Do you know what happened next? The killer surrendered to the police, and he said that he killed the man in the name of religion. He said the victim had committed blasphemy. This murderer has become a hero overnight in Pakistan. His fans have surrounded the police station, cheering the murder and demanding that anyone who commits blasphemy should be beheaded. Here's a report.
Can you use religion to get away with murder? In Pakistan, you can. As the world unites to separate faith from crime, Imran Khan's country is bent on walking the other way. A recent case stands as a testimony. Pakistan is hero-worshipping a murderer. Here's the story. On the 4th of November, a bank manager was killed by a security guard in the Punjab province. The killer gave himself up to the police. He told the authorities that he killed in the name of religion. He said the victim had insulted the Prophet and committed blasphemy. Does this ring a bell? The family of the deceased say it was a cold-blooded murder. The guard apparently had a personal grudge. But who cares now? The killer had used the cover of blasphemy and he has become a hero. He now has a group of supporters who flocked to the police station cheering. Behead those who insult the Prophet, they said. Some shouted, we accept death in the service of the Prophet. Does this ring a bell? Wasn't it just a week ago that the world was debating crime in the name of religion? This is Pakistan trying to mock any attempt at peace. The killer was seen waving at these supporters from the roof of the police station. What is the Imran Khan government doing about this? Nothing. The killer is a retired army personnel. That's the territory Imran Khan doesn't like to trespass. And now the perpetrator has taken cover under the name of religion. In other words, he's untouchable. This comes days after a viral video exposed Pakistan giving beheading lessons to young girls. This is Imran Khan's Pakistan. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
And now some good news on the vaccine front for India. The indigenously developed Covaxin could be ready by February next year. This is important for a couple of reasons. One, it is arriving ahead of schedule. And two, it will reduce India's dependence on foreign vaccines. But how safe is India's homegrown jab? Our next report tells you.
India is fast-tracking its homegrown vaccine for COVID-19. Government scientists say it could be rolled out as early as February 2021. Covaxin is India's big bet against COVID-19. It is being developed by Bharat Biotech and ICMR and is a fully indigenous project. So where does Covaxin stand right now? Phase 1 was held in July. 350 volunteers from 12 centers in India took part. The results were encouraging. So, Phase 2 was approved. This time, 380 volunteers were involved. They were monitored for 4 days after being administered the vaccine. With Phase 1 and Phase 2 completed, Covaxin is now moving on to Phase 3, large-scale trials. Phase 3 will feature 26,000 volunteers at 25 centers from across India. It is expected to begin later this month. The announcement comes as a welcome surprise. Earlier, makers said the vaccine would be ready only by the second quarter of 2021. A February rollout is way ahead of schedule for Covaxin. Government scientists say the vaccine is safe and effective. ICMR is ready to deploy it even before Phase 3 trials. But there are risks associated with this. So the decision has been left to the Health Ministry. In September, India's Health Minister hinted at emergency authorization for a COVID vaccine, especially for the elderly population. Considering India's large caseload, such an exception cannot be ruled out. Until now, India's hopes were pinned on Britain's AstraZeneca. But work on the vaccine is taking longer than expected. Reports say deliveries will run late. This means India will have to look elsewhere. A homegrown jab looks like the best bet. India is not alone in doing this. Australia is set to buy 135 million doses of various vaccines. Prime Minister Scott Morrison says he does not want to put all his eggs in the same basket. India's Wuhan virus outbreak is tapering off. Since mid-September, daily cases have plunged significantly. But as we've seen in Europe and US, a second wave is always a possibility. Covaxin could be crucial in holding off new infections. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
With that, we're wrapping up this edition of Gravitas. Hopefully by tomorrow night when we meet For Gravitas, we'll have a result and America's next president's name would be clear. We're waiting till then and following all the developments, leaving you with Gravitas Images. Thanks very much for watching.